Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we're going to have a look at the Ruck division. It's changed quite a bit, the setup over the last few months in regards to players' form and fitness. A lot of people going for the set and forget. I'm just going to run through a few of my thoughts on the ways you can go about the Ruck setup this season. As I said, a lot of people have gone for the set and forget. At the moment, given Matthew Lobbe was the initial choice at $389,000, a lot of people with Ryder going down with the ban for the year, a lot of people moved in on Lobbe to be back to some of his best form and averaging those three figures. But his NAB challenge was very, very disappointing, and I have dropped him myself as well, and I think you'd be hard pressed to actually pick him because his form has just been terrible. I mean, you get the opportunity, but you don't want him to just be an absolute letdown and average you about 80 and just under a touch of 400,000. It makes it very awkward that he's going to make you much money as well. He needs to be back to his best form. If we saw a good NAB challenge from Lobbe and thought, well, he's a good chance to average 100 at 390,000, that's a pretty good price. But with the form that he produced and even just the way he looked and how out of touch he was, it makes it very difficult to pick him. So that made a lot of people panic and go, look, we can't have that. We must set and forget, lock and load some absolute guns. So I'm going to discuss that topic. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to lock and load a set and forget too, Goldstein has to be involved. He averaged 128 last year, and you've got to have him involved in your starting rucks. That's why I won't be going the set and forget. I've seen a lot of people go with that option, but some have gone with sort of your Stefan Martin and a Jacobs, or a Gawn and a Martin. Nick Naitanui quite popular. Mumford's another guy you might think about, but his injury worries are exactly that, quite concerning. So look, I think if you're going to go set and forget, Goldstein must be involved in that. I don't expect him to average 130 again, but even if he averages sort of around that 115, 120 mark, you know, it's still going to be fantastic, and I think he's the one ruckman that we just know will be top two. You can make a strong case for Martin, Jacobs, Gawn, Nick Naitanui. I think they'll be second to Goldstein by year's end. So we need him in, which leads me to my main point. Goldstein will drop in price. He's at $695,000. He's not Gary Ablett. I mean, yes, at times he was Gary Ablett-like in the ruck, but Ablett over the past has been warranting that price tag. You just know he's arguably the best player of all time. You can't not pick him. He's not going to drop. Goldstein had an unbelievable year. It'll be the best year he's ever had once his career is done, but he will drop. I mean, his first 4 rounds are also worth to note. He'll come up against Sam Jacobs, Steph Martin, Max Gawn and Aaron Sandilands. A few of the guys I just mentioned, they're Premier Ruckmen. That's not to say Goldstein won't churn out hundreds. He probably will, but I don't see him absolutely exploding and going huge numbers in your 150s, 160s, because naturally those guys are going to be fair opposition, and while he may win and dominate for a quarter or so, I can't see him just manhandling players of that ilk and then scoring 160. So look, I 100% believe that we will be able to get Goldstein in the early stages of 2016 around the 600,000 mark. I myself cannot justify picking Goldstein at that price tag because I personally see him dropping almost certainly. I mean, he will drop in price, and therefore I think if you can find a mid-price option that you like and work some cash in from your rookies, etc., then potentially round 5 or 6, Goldstein could be at a great price. Your other mid prices, risen sort of 50 to 100k if you've picked a good one there, and all of a sudden it's a much nicer swap and an extremely beneficial one. But that's where the problem begins. Who is this mid-price option? As I've already discussed, Matthew Lobbe is out of the question. His form is just terrible, let's be honest. Matthew Leuenberger is a player that well, his fitness is the question. His form is not. We know when he gets out in the park and he's the number one ruck, he's extremely effective. Now, look, he has not had a great pre-season, let's be honest. He struggled with Achilles soreness, which scares a lot of people off, and rightfully so. I'm not going to say pick Leuenberger, but I'm definitely going to say consider. At 310,000, my only question mark on him is his body. I think, can he uphold 5 weeks in a row of AFL footy? That's my real question mark. I mean, I hope he can. History shows that he can do it, but I think at the Bombers, they've got a few other tall options as well. They're not playing for sheep stations this year. It's a development season. They know that going in. they're not going to look to play him for 22 games. He will be rested. Trying to find out when that's going to be and crystal ball that, good luck to you. I like him at that price, and I was assured even more so after his VFL showing where he's pretty impressive. I think he had 13 touches, kicked a couple of goals, and he looked good. By all reports, he moved well, played plenty of time on ground, and he got through it. So he's fit, he's at 310,000, he's a proven scorer. If he's named round one, which looks expected now that he's fit, he will be in my team, I think. So he's one that I'm liking. Another one is Zach Smith. So he's a bit more expensive. He's at 425k. And of course, being a Cats man, I've seen him play every game basically. I've missed one of them, but he's been impressive. He wins his own footy, won a lot of clearances, which has been very impressive. Contested ball. 425,000 really makes me, I don't know about that. It's a lot to pay for a guy who isn't proven and isn't going to be a sole ruckman. I know he'll probably be Geelong's number one ruck, but to an extent it will be shared with Stanley and Vardy, and it will be experimented with. Trust me, as a Geelong man, we will experiment with that ruck duo. I think Smith has the mantle right now, but we like Stanley in the ruck. At times we will experiment, and Geelong historically, with all these big men on their list, like to, just tinker with the duos, tinker with the combinations. So look, that's something to consider. Mind you, I wouldn't be picking Smith as a keeper, more so the stepping stone to Goldstein. So he does have his hand on the mantle for number one ruck at the start of the Geelong season, so perhaps he might be looking at it as, look, he can start the season with the first 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds, averaging 95 to 100. That's going to be enough for me. As soon as I start to see a drop-off or anything change in that, then I'll trade him. I don't mind that mantra at all. I would endorse Zach Smith. He's at a new club. He's a talented youngster once upon a time, and we're starting to see what he was once capable of, or what at least he showed potential to produce. So I'd certainly consider him. Rule out Lobie, but look, they're the two formats you'd be going with. Set and forget, where I think you must include Goldstein. I myself am more one for your absolute premium, and then a mid-pricer, because I am very confident Goldstein will be far better within reach 4 to 5, 6, 7 rounds into the season. Keep him on your radar and then get him in once that mid-price option rises a little bit and you generate a bit of cash somewhere else. I will say, the teams aren't out yet, of course, so that rookie ruck, that ruck 3 spot is going to be crucial, because I can see Leuenberger being rested at some point, whether it be after 5 or 6 rounds, or he pulls up sore, or they travel to WA, which I don't think they do for some time from memory. I think it's about round 8 or 9. But I would like, if you're picking Leuenberger, I would like to see the playing ruck 3. I know some people will loophole that option, but I would like just that little bit of insurance, because you can't trust Leuenberger with his body and the history he has on that. I can trust his scoring and I can trade that off with what his body may let me down with, but to have a 0 or potentially have to trade out a guy who's sitting at 320k or something if he just goes up a little bit, given an injury-affected game, something like that, then that's where it can really hurt you, that selection. Of course, that's where the set and forget is exactly that. You lock them in, catch you later, just forget that. They're going to average 100 plus, happy days. I probably will be taking a risk. I'm leaning towards Leuenberger. I'll be waiting on these teams. I'd like to see a Mason Cox named, a Grimley, perhaps a Dan Curry. None of them seem extremely likely, but if they do get named, then I'll be more confident having a Leuenberger. I think at that price he's extremely tempting, but I certainly wouldn't say no to Zach Smith. He's been in electric form. You can't say no to that sort of form this time of year with a man who's got a point to prove in a premiership fancy team. He'll be extremely keen to make that ruck 1 spot absolutely his from the get-go, which he's been doing already. So there's a bit to consider. I thought I'd make a video about the ruck positions because, as I've discussed, I've been talking for about 9 minutes. There's a fair bit to talk about, and it's a big decision to make. You can take a few more risks through the midfield, because if one lets you down, well, you got 3 guys to cover it, and there's naturally more options through the midfield in mid-price options and, premiums falling. So that's why it's perhaps easier to take a risk in the midfield, and on the flip side, your risks must pay off in the ruck or they can hurt you twofold. So they're my thoughts. Stay tuned for the teams. I'm not going to talk about the the rookie rucks at this stage, because of course the teams won't be released till tomorrow, at least all the teams, so you got to stay tuned for that. I think there'll be a few options we get, but if we don't get any, just make it your loophole. So chuck in 102. I think the Collingwood ruckman, I think I read something about they're in a lot of Sunday games, which helps for your loophole. I think it's Wyatt, so potentially look at that man. But give me your thoughts on the ruck positions. Tell me who you're lining up in your ruck spots and what format you're going with. Any questions, I'm always happy to hear. Mind you, these are just my opinions. Don't take them as fact. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball here. I'm not psychic. They're just my well-educated thought process that I think is reasonably calculated, but by no means, just because I say it, does that mean you should change your team. I'm definitely one for having an individual team and taking in what I say into consideration, but don't just change your team just because I said it. So subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what I'm hearing. Give the video a like, and as always, SuperCoach season, plenty of SuperCoach content coming your way. There's just a day to go, so get on board, and exciting times.